There's a sound your mind makes when everything is actually fine. You know it, you've heard it. It's that low, restless hum. Even when the day was good, even when nothing went wrong, even when you're lying in a comfortable bed in a quiet room with no real reason to feel unsettled. And yet, there it is, that hum, like a television left on in another room, in a house you can't find your way out of. Most people assume something is wrong with them when they feel this, like they missed a step somewhere, or they're broken in some subtle way that everyone else figured out how to fix. But here's the thing, that hum isn't a malfunction. It's actually the mind doing exactly what it was built to do. And once you understand what it was built for, really understand it, the whole thing starts to make a different kind of sense. So let's start there. Your mind is, at its core, a problem-solving machine. That's not poetry, that's biology. For most of human history, the people who survived were the ones whose minds never fully relaxed. The ones who, even after a good day, kept scanning. Is there a threat nearby? Is there enough food? Is something about to go wrong? Those people lived. The ones who sat in total peace, completely unbothered, without a care, well, they often didn't see what was coming. So your restless mind isn't a flaw, it's an inheritance. It's thousands of years of anxious, vigilant, problem-finding humans passing their wiring down to you. You received a mind that was designed to seek trouble, and now you're living in an era where the biggest danger you face before lunch is a slow internet connection. The machine is still running, it just doesn't have much useful work to do, but that's only part of it, because the other thing the mind does, the thing that actually keeps it spinning, isn't just looking for danger, it's looking for more. And this is where the old teachings have something very specific to say. The Buddhist tradition has a word for this, tanha. It's usually translated as craving or thirst. But I think the better image is this. Imagine you're holding a cup of water. You drink it. For a moment, the thirst is gone. Then, almost immediately, the mind starts thinking about the next cup. Not because you're dying of thirst, just because that's the motion it knows. Reach, receive, briefly satisfied, reach again. Reach, receive, briefly satisfied, reach again. This isn't just about wanting things you don't have. It's sneakier than that. It's also about wanting to keep the things you already have. Wanting situations to stay the same when they feel good, wanting people to stay close, wanting your health, your stability, your sense of who you are, all of it to just hold still and not change. The Buddha called this the second kind of thirst, not craving more, but clinging to what is. And then there's a third one, wanting to push away the things that feel bad, the discomfort, the boredom, the difficult person, the memory you don't like. The mind is constantly trying to get rid of these, rearrange around them, avoid them, reach for the good, clutch the good, shove away the bad. That's the loop, and it never stops because it can never be completed. The good things change, the bad things come back, and the gap between what is and what you want it to be, that gap is where the restlessness lives. See, the mind isn't at peace because it was never designed to arrive. It was designed to keep moving. Now, the Stoics noticed something similar, but they came at it from a different angle. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, one of the most powerful men who ever lived, and also somehow one of the most honest writers about how hard it is to feel okay. He wrote this in his private journal, which he never meant anyone to read. He said that the happiness most people seek is like building a house on sand that keeps shifting. In plain words, you keep trying to find peace in things that move, and then you're surprised when the peace moves too. He wasn't saying don't want anything. He was saying, notice where you're anchoring. Because if your calm depends on your circumstances being a certain way, then your calm is actually just circumstances. It's not yours. It's borrowed from a situation that will eventually change. Think about that for a second. When you say, I'll feel better when, and everyone does this, don't feel bad. When you say that, what you're really saying is, I'm handing the controls to something outside of me, and the outside doesn't have great judgment. It doesn't care about your peace. It's just doing its own thing. So here's where it gets interesting. The Taoist teachers, and these were people living in ancient China who watched rivers and valleys and weather patterns and wrote very strange, very wise things about what they observed. They pointed at something that I think is the missing piece. They noticed that water never fights its situation. A river doesn't argue with a rock. It moves around it. It finds the low path, the easy path, the path of least resistance. And eventually, quietly, it carves through stone, not by force, by continuing to be itself. They had a phrase for this, Wu Wei, which sounds like a concept you'd need a degree to understand, but in plain words, it's something like, Stop trying so hard to make everything be different from what it is right now. That doesn't mean give up. It doesn't mean be passive. It means, and this is the part that takes a while to really feel, it means your peace is not on the other side of your circumstances changing. It's available right here, in the middle of the circumstances that already exist. Not because everything is fine, but because you've stopped needing everything to be fine in order to feel okay. The mind never feels at peace because it keeps treating peace as a destination, as something that waits for you, solve the last problem, earn the last thing, resolve the last worry. But the last problem doesn't come. There's always another one waiting just behind it. So if peace is the thing at the end of the road, you will walk that road your entire life and never arrive. Here's the image I keep coming back to. Imagine a snow globe. You know those little glass balls with a tiny scene inside? A house, a little tree, a small figure. And when you shake them, the snow swirls around and you can't see anything clearly. The mind is like that when it's caught in the loop we've been talking about. Everything shaking, everything swirling, everything obscured. And most people's instinct is to shake it harder, to think more, plan more, fix more, push more, as if eventually you can shake it into stillness. But you can't shake a snow globe into stillness. The only thing that stills it is setting it down, not abandoning it, not throwing it away, not pretending the snow isn't there, just setting it down and waiting and watching the snow settle on its own. This is what meditation actually is, by the way, not emptying the mind. That's a misunderstanding that puts a lot of people off before they ever begin. The mind doesn't empty. The snow doesn't disappear. You just stop shaking it long enough to see clearly. That's it. That's the whole thing. The Hindu tradition has a concept called chitta vritti, which is sometimes translated as the fluctuations of the mind. The great teacher Patanjali opened his most important text by saying that yoga, and here he meant all of practice, all of wisdom, is about learning to still these fluctuations, not kill them, not escape them, still them, let them settle, like the snow. And here's what you notice. When the snow settles even briefly, what you notice is that the glass itself was always clear. The transparency was always there. You were always there, underneath the noise. The peace isn't something you build, it's something you uncover. It was there before the swirling started. Now, none of this means you become someone who doesn't feel things. That's not the goal. The person who never feels restless, never feels longing, never feels the pull of something they want or the ache of something they've lost. That person isn't enlightened. That person is flat. The teachings aren't asking you to stop being human. They're asking you to stop being surprised by it. Feel the restlessness. Notice it. Don't chase it away. Don't dive into it head first. Just see it. Name it quietly. There's that hum again. There's that reaching. There's the mind doing its old routine. You don't have to fix it every time. You don't have to solve it. Sometimes you just have to let it be there without turning it into a crisis. Remember, a wave is not the ocean failing. It's just what the ocean does. Your restlessness is not you failing. It's just what minds do. The question is whether you are the wave or whether you are the water, deep enough and still enough underneath that the waves can come and go without taking you with them. This takes practice. It takes patience. It takes a kind of gentleness with yourself that most of us weren't taught and that the world doesn't exactly reward, but it is learnable, not as a concept you understand, as something you slowly become. You start small, you notice the reaching, you pause before the next thing, you sit for a moment with whatever is here, even if what's here is uncomfortable, even if the snow is still swirling. You set the globe down, you wait, you notice the settling, even just a little, and slowly, not all at once, not in a single afternoon, you start to feel something that doesn't depend on your circumstances being good, something quieter than happiness, steadier than excitement, less fragile than everything feeling okay, something that's actually yours, not borrowed from the day, not rented from the situation. The mind will never feel at peace if you keep asking it to find peace the way it looks for everything else, by chasing, achieving, solving, arriving. That method works beautifully for most problems. It doesn't work for this one. This one moves differently. This one asks you to stop, to let the water settle, to notice that the glass was always clear. The hum won't disappear, but you'll start to hear it differently, less like an alarm, more like weather, something passing through, something that was never the whole story, and that, quiet as it sounds, changes everything.